And I'll see what Ian thinks of my quilt. He's not seen it yet. I wonder if he'll like this fabric here. Because he likes things symmetrical. Hold up. Ian! Ian! Come here. Sorry, I didn't mean to whistle for you like a dog. I want you to see my new quilt.
Okay. I'm coming with my tea and stuff. What's going on?
Oh.
What are you doing?
Sorry. Oh.
What are you doing, woman?
Sorry.
What are you sorry for?
I want you to turn around and look at my quilt. What do you think of it? Oh, just go look.
Oh. Oh, that's very pretty.
You like it?
Oh, wow. What's the news?
Yeah. Do you like that background fabric? Because you like things a little bit more...
Interesting. Not just so plain.
Oh, you like it?
This is wonderful.
Ah, yeah, good. Yeah, remember I always say something reads as white? This reads as white, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't to me now.
No, but...
It looks fantastic.
Ah, thank you.
It's not just plain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all full of interest.
Yeah, it's going to have a border around it.
Pretty. So this is sort of a lap quilt.
Yes, yeah.
It's not massive to go on a bed.
It's not massive.
I like it.
Thank you. You look tired. Sorry I woke you up.
What are you're not going to use this, are you?
You look very tired. Here, go away from the camera. You look tired.
Yeah, but I'm just in my robe.
That's all right. I just wanted you to see the quilt. Smile.
Do you want to hear a story?
Yeah, tell me a story.
Tell you a story. Well, folks, we had such a great Sunday, and then we thought we'd have a nap on Sunday afternoon.
You thought you would have...
And
you went to bed.
You said, I'm not going to go lay on a bed or what have you, because whatever.
I lay on a
sofa. Lay on the sofa.
Right.
And I like to have a nap. Anyway, I woke up at 7:30. I'm thinking, oh, my wife and dear Maxwell, they've got up early in the morning. My suggestion that was so that we can do some specific good things together.
Because you went.
I'm an early bird.
You went to bed at 4:30 in the afternoon.
But I thought it was tomorrow morning.
It was so disconcerting.
Thinking, oh, they've got up. They actually listened to Dad and husband.
Yeah, you're always like, get up real early. Wrong. It was so disconcerting. You woke up and
anyway,
you're like...
we've had a nice couple of hours ever since. What is the time?
I don't know, it's late.
It's hair past freckle.
Yeah, it is hair past freckle. Now you need to go back to bed. Are you going to go back to bed?
Maybe.
Do you like my quilt?
No, that is outstanding. Well,
thank you. I have to put a border around it.
I'm a fan anyway. But
yeah, I know.
Well, what do you call this?
This is a carpenter's star.
Carpenter's star.
I didn't know how to do it, and a real true carpenter star has like two colors.
Okay, and what's these for?
That's the border. I'm gonna. That's like I'll do that. I'm gonna do that next week from my leftovers.
That's such a pleasing colour.
Oh, thank you.
Overall impression.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Okay, enough of me.
All right, enough of you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
My last video, I was showing you how I was going to be trimming up my half square triangles to my 6.5 inch unfinished blocks here. Right? And you might be thinking, or I thought, oh, come on, you've sewn them so well, you've cut them so well, you were real careful. But why in the world do we have to trim? It's a pain in the neck. Oh, I did it so well, but I belong to Facebook groups, and so many people often put a photograph of after they've trimmed up their half square triangles, and if you look at that, I did a really good job, and there's just little shreds, there's little pieces, little tiny bits, just a little sliver, come on, like what? That one's, but like that size, just little tiny bits, the little dog ears, that one's a little bit big, so I messed up there a bit, but all of that bird's nest right there is what would be in seams, okay? So it just is a little practice for you to really get your half square triangles, really lovely and square. So now I'm pretty assured that when I go to put my quilt together, my points are going to match to a great extent. If they don't, it's fine. It's like what Maxwell says, it's fine. So, but I just thought that was really interesting. So if you have that, if you've done it, then that's the proper way to do it. And now you'll have your lovely 6.5 inch half square triangles. Hi everybody. The last video that I had done was showing you that I was going to be putting up my design tablecloth, my flannel backed tablecloth. If you don't have this, you can have a piece of batting, which I have addressed before, just large enough for our cotton blocks to be able to stick to. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have this pattern as a reference for how I actually put up my squares. Now, if you have done it like I have, you have a pack of 6.5 inch background squares. You have a pack of 6.5 inch half square triangles twice. And then you have a pack of 6.5 inch scrappy blocks, okay? So we have 4 packs, or 3 actually, to draw from. But because I have my 2 packs of identical half square triangles, which I made in my last video, I'm going to be putting up 1/2 on the top randomly, and then the other half on the bottom, because as I was saying in my last video, there are duplicates of these patches that we've made from our 16 blocks, which have made our 32, and then our 16 background, and then our 16 regular 6.5 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that now off camera, and then I will be explaining exactly where everything is and how I put it on my design wall. Okay, here goes. So now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and I've used one whole bag. I'll show you. I've used this one whole bag of the 6.5 inch square triangles, okay? And that's in the top here, all of these half triangles. Now, again, there's my next bag, and even though it's going to look scrappy, these ones are going to go on the bottom along with my whole squares and my background fabric. So I'll just continue, and as you can see back here, I'll just bring this back. You can see how that reads as white, that sort of newspaper print. It reads as white, although it's an actual print when you're up. Now this quilt obviously, or maybe not obviously, needs a border, but I do have the fabric for the border. I'm just looking, did I place that wrong? Oh, I did place that wrong. I think I placed that one over there wrong. Okay, so I'll address that. Because you probably eagle-eyed saw that. So I'll address that to make sure everything is going the proper way. So I am on my 5th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I did make a few mistakes. So it's very important that when we're following this pattern, which is my moda, but I've modified it so that I have the solid star right there in the middle, that we follow along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. So right now you can see my outer star evolving here, and then I'm going to go down into my 6th, 7th, and 8th rows. And then I'll explain how I'm going to be sewing these together. I think I have it right. I'm looking through the viewfinder, and what I'm seeing is, yes, I see a big white diamond here, a big white diamond there, a big white diamond there. Sometimes you have to come away, even when you're looking at the pattern. I see my diamonds. I see it's like 4 large diamonds there, so I'm going to have one down here also. Okay, I'll keep continuing. So I'm done placing my fabric in my stars. Now I have to tell you, I messed up quite a few times. Even with my diagram, you have to be very, very careful We're going to be working in rows, okay? There are 8 rows here. There are 8 squares across and 8 rows down. We are going to have in our 4 envelopes, just to reiterate, 16 of the background, 16 each duplicate in each bag of the half square triangles, and 16 of our solid blocks. That makes 64 squares of fabric that we have on our quilt here. Again, I got mixed up with my brain. I had to follow my chart very, very carefully. In fact, I should have marked this first row, second row, third row, because it's very easy to get confused, especially with a brain like mine. But I've ended up, I have a nice triangle there, a triangle there, a triangle there. Now, the only thing I'm not quite in love with is this pale block here. There's just a little bit, not too much contrast, but that is what came in the, that's what I pulled out of my 42-inch pack, which is fine because I can really see my star there, my scrappy star. I would imagine. It's a fairly easy quilt. You just, at this point, be very, very careful. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over and I'm going to, off my design wall, which I have stuck a few pins in because it was a little bit vertical. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my top row. Now, I know a lot of people don't like sewing an entire row of things, and they prefer to do a quadrant. This is a quarter of the quilt here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, whichever way you prefer, I like doing it row by row, even though it's a longer seam for me. I get confused when I do this. I take it off and, oh, I just get confused. What I am going to do, and I'm going to go in my other room, into my sewing machine, I'm going to take a photograph of this on my phone and have that next to me as I'm sewing, even though I'm going to be taking off from the left here and putting behind the left, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to put them on top of each other so I know that I'm going to be sewing this seam, this seam, this seam. But I'm going to take a photograph, have it next to my phone, so if I do get caught away, I'm not confused as to where this seam goes. Then I will... and I put one on top of the other. Now I'm going to put my phone over here so I have reference. That is if I got called away or something. My blocks have been taken off just as they came, and I do know that when I'm going to put that one there, when I take this one off, the second one goes like this. The second one goes like that, and I'm going to put the pretty side to the pretty side because this is the seam I want to sew right there. We've cut them nicely, and my 1/4 inch seam. So I'm sewing. And this, again, I'm sewing row by row. If you can figure out the 4 quadrants, that's awesome. But I'm sewing row by row. So now my next one, I know I'm looking at my phone here, and I know my third one goes just like this, and it's going to be the pretty side over to the pretty side of my half square triangle here. Scratch that together, and you will see, because we've sewn it properly, start at the top, 1/4 inch, that we're going to have a lovely 1/4 inch gap at the top. I'll show you. Pinch and pull, so that when we go to put our border on, it won't cut that point off. Do you see that? Our point will be lovely. It won't be down here. It will be right there. There. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece, which is my 4th block, and again, you see, I did put these, the newspaper print going all the same way here, if you get up to it, but these blocks, it's upside down, it's to the side, I'm fine with that. So this one is going to go the pretty side over here, and what we're going to do is, because we've made it so, we've trimmed it so very well, this spot here, they're just going to sort of nest together we're going to start up here. We're going to nest together. Go slowly. Keep your 1/4 inch. And again, that point should be good for our next row. Press a foot up, pinch, trim, and there you go. There is my point right there. And then I have my 1/4 inch seam when we go to sew on the next one. So we haven't lost any points. And again, here's my 5th block in my top row. I just put it over. I find that easy to do, to keep my blocks all in order here. And again, I keep this over here, sort of nest those two. Because we've trimmed them so well, hopefully you have, and even if you haven't, even if you didn't take time, that's okay. Don't worry about it. If a few points off now and again, doesn't really matter. So here we go, my 1/4 inch. And at the top, again, there's my point with my seam allowance. So I'm just going to continue. Oops. So here is my top row. What I'm going to do first is, because I didn't actually press this fabric too well before I made it, I'm just going to be setting these seams. Again, it's a little bit of a not a chore, but I think it's a nice thing to do to get a really nice crisp looking quilt top. So just fold these seams back, just take a minute, not even, and just press those seams. So we're going to set our seams that we've just sewn over on our machine. I will be pressing my rows alternately, one way, and then the next row I'll be pressing the other way, okay? So now this is my row here, and I'm just going to be I sometimes say I like to let the fabric tell me where it wants to go. That seam, I want to press all of my seams this way towards me, because I can see that these seams here just want to go my way. So I'm just going to be using my iron. I will come back after I press this and I will starch it, or just use a bit of sizing. And lift that up, and this seam is going this way. Okay, and again, you're just nudging that over like that. And this one in the middle. Now, some people do prefer to actually open up their seams. I'm not bothered at this at all, because this seam is going this way. The next row, that seam will be going the other way. But again, if you wanted to, or if you're used to pressing your seams open, then that would be okay. I like to press seams one way, and then the next row the other way, and then the next row, because that way they nest together really beautifully. I have sewn together the top 2 rows each row like this. And these are all just pinned up to my design board. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew this seam. I'm going to take you over to my sewing machine and show you how I've nested the seams. This long seam, it's okay, we're going to pin it. We're going to pin it at each intersection right here, and you'll see how easy it works, because these seams have been pressed that way and these second row have been pressed this way. When I come down and I fix my 3rd row, I would do completely the opposite all the way down. So we're going to get lovely points and a lovely intersection for each of our blocks. So I'm going to go back over to my sewing machine and show you how I sew this fairly long seam. Again, if you don't want to do the seams, you just could have pieced these 4 blocks and made into the quadrant there, like somebody said, 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters. But I like to do it row by row. Look. And so what I've done is I've pulled them off, and I'm going to be putting the pretty side over to the pretty side. This is my top row. This is my second row. And as I was saying, I have actually pressed this seam allowance, all of these seams allowance to the right, and then all of those seam allowances over there to the left, so that you can feel that they just nest right together. I will use pins. I will put a pin right there. And then I will just come along to the next intersection and I will find that those two seams right there nest together. So to pinch them together so there's no bulk. A lot of people put a pin on either side. I tend to put a pin sort of right in the middle. Now again, here's my point, and that's going up to two seams. So my seams here are going one way, and my seam there is going underneath the other way. And I know when I sew that at 1/4 of an inch, I won't lose that point. So I'll just continue pinning my blocks. Sweet boy. Okay, so here I am. I'm starting at this end. And again, because in quilting you don't necessarily have to backstitch. If you want to, you can. But because all of the seams intersect in a quilt, there's really no need to backstitch. But by all means, if you want to. Now, I'm going to pull my pin out, and I'm pretty sure when I do that 1/4 of an inch that my seams are going, my points, if there is a point there, is going to be lovely. I'll just slow down. I keep my needle in. And oh, there's Maxwell again. He's funny. Proof is in the pudding, right? So my top seam, my seams line up beautifully. Oh, my point's very, very nice there. I didn't lose that point or that intersection at all. Let me see over here. That one is also lovely. And I think you'll find yours if you just take it steady. That point's lovely. If you just take it steady, and you've trimmed it up, your blocks, these seams will match up really, really well. Really beautiful. Now I'm back at my ironing board, and I cannot explain or emphasize to you beginners, of course you experienced quilters know, how very important it is to iron or to press, and to keep pressing as you go along. You may think, well, I'm going to put all my blocks together, it's cool, and I'll iron them, I'll press them a little bit, and then I'll do my rows. But as you go along, pressing is so very important, or ironing in my case. I just like to iron a little bit like this. I'm now setting this seam that I have just sewn. And as you can see, all my seams are going lovely. That one's going that way underneath. I'm just going to set this seam. Now when I turn this over, I always say, I see where the fabric wants to go. I think my seam wants to go this way. So what I'll do is I'm just going to help it along. I'm going to nudge that along like there. And then I'm just going to hit, I use a little bit of starch. I'm just going to use a little bit of starch. And then keeping everything really nice, just nudging it with my fingers, again, with the tip of my needle, just roll that seam right over. So you can see our intersections are perfect. Again, just take your time with this. My carpenter star is really shaping up, and what I have done is I have, as I was saying, I sew one row and then 2 rows and then sew that seam and then attach and then do these 2 and then that seam. So I'm down here. I am almost finished. I have done the last 2 rows. I've sewn my blocks together, my row, and as you can see, I've not sewn this seam. When I sew this seam, and then I can attach it to there, the body of my carpenter star will be done. And then I can talk about putting the borders on in my next video. All right, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I think it's so pretty. Yeah. All right. Love from the Trueloves. See ya.